Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 27 female, am the second youngest in a family of 7. I have 2 brothers and 4 sisters. The restaurant is owned by my sister Daisy, 28 female. Daisy and I are both close to other members of our family. But she and I were never close, and she has been pretty awful to me over the years. She'd try to get other siblings to exclude me, and when they wouldn't, she'd say mean things to me. We shared a room until we were 18, and she made the experience miserable for me. She'd beg to get her own room or say she wanted to share with another sister. But being as close in age as we were, our parents decided we needed to keep sharing. She'd ruined some of my things when she was trying to get our parents to separate us. She ignores me as an adult. I was the only person excluded from her 21st birthday party, from her college graduation, and so on. We see each other when we're at our parents', or if we have something going on in the family. Our younger brother has asked her in the past why she hates me so much when she doesn't hate anyone else, and she told him I ruined her life. She didn't give more information, just I ruined her life. She said she wished Mom had terminated me, and she'd be happier. She also said she despised every second of sharing a room with me, and wished I could have been kidnapped to get me out of her hair. I heard this, and I was like, fine, you know what? I have 5 amazing siblings. 5 siblings is enough. Daisy and I aren't sisters. We're just 2 people who happen to share a family. I knew nothing about Daisy opening a restaurant until it was almost time. She told everyone else, but not me, of course. It was mentioned in passing in front of me, which is how I learned about it. But my parents wanted the family to support her and decided we should all have a family dinner there to do that. I refused to go. I said I was not supporting her. My parents told me I needed to go. Most of my siblings weren't surprised. One was, kinda, but still agreed with me. They told our parents that it made 0 sense for me to be there, and Daisy would hate seeing me in her place anyway. Our parents were like, family supports each other, and all kinds of crap. I ended up not going. 2 of my siblings left during dinner because things were being said about me not showing up. My parents said I should have put our differences aside and shown Daisy what family does for each other. They told me she could have come around to me. Am I the a-hole? OP's parents should hold themselves and Daisy accountable, not OP. They should have addressed this situation ages ago, and they should have kept their mouths shut about it at dinner. They don't deserve the illusion of the happy family they failed to create. If Daisy is still holding on to these childish resentments, she needs some serious counseling. And she too should be blaming her parents, not OP. Your parents actually said that, essentially, if you pay her, she may decide she doesn't hate you anymore? Seriously? No way. You're not the a-hole. You took the high road that makes you both happier. Would you even be able to trust any food she served you? Not that I think she would poison you, but it sounds like she'd be perfectly happy to do something unpleasant to it. Not the a-hole, and it sounds like your sister has I should have been an only child syndrome and has taken it out on you. I have a sibling like that. We didn't talk for almost 15 years. If the family supports each other, where was your parents' support when Daisy treated you like crap? Do your parents know what Daisy was spouting? What kind of hateful crap that was? If your parents don't know, tell them what was put on display by Daisy. These statements are so unbelievable that you have to expect that this woman will want to K you if you come on her radar. You are not in the wrong, and don't hesitate to tell everyone that you don't have to put up with something like this. Keep in touch with the rest of your siblings, and keep telling yourself, Daisy is not my sister. She's just someone who can't hurt me. Not the a-hole. I have twins, a 26-year-old boy and girl. From their births, we set aside some money to mature big expenses. A deposit for a house, a wedding, something like that. They were both aware of that money and knew the stipulations surrounding it. It had to be something that they couldn't do without that money to help them. I want to make it clear that neither of them had to ask for the money, outside of the circumstances I'll explain below. At the start of last year, my son got engaged. Their plan was to get married at his now wife's favorite place, a rather grand hotel. They approached us with this plan, and my son asked for his money to put down a deposit. The reservation was pricey, but this place is one used by kids of celebrities and stuff like that. We agreed, with the money covering around 80% of the total cost for the reservation. My son, His wife and her family covered the rest of the cost for the day. Their wedding was in December, and it was a lovely time. Earlier this month, my daughter approached me saying that her and her fiancé had been talking about their wedding. She said that they'd decided that they were going to elope in the near future. Specifically, they were going to get married in some rural location in a random European country that she's always been obsessed with. I asked if she needed the money for some kind of destination wedding, and she said no, that no one was being invited. They're going to hire a local celebrant and a couple of witnesses, or, if that fails, get married at the local council offices, and then go off to this place and have their marriage blessed there. She then said that the money would ideally be used for a series of parties back home when it was safe. She met her fiancé at university, and his family lives in another part of the country, so she'd have something with them, something with us, and then something with their friends at some kind of central location. She'd priced it all out, and it was about 35% of the total funds in the account. She said they'd like to use the rest for a deposit for a house in the future. I was shocked that she wanted to disregard her family and exclude us from her wedding, and then use the money we'd saved all her life for a party. I told her as such, and said that the money could only be used for a wedding where we were actually allowed to attend, or she could use it all on a house, but no parties. She was upset, and hasn't really spoken to me since. My son says that I was in the right since they've known these rules all their lives, and parties are not an expense that fit the criteria. However, my husband says that if he could act unilaterally, then he'd let them have the money. Am I wrong for wanting the money to be used responsibly? Oh, OP didn't create a fund that she could use to enjoy her wedding. OP created a fund used for OP to enjoy for her wedding. Yeah, a gift is no longer heartfelt when it's for your own benefit. You're the a-hole. What's different between your son's wedding that you attended and the party to celebrate your daughter's marriage? They're both big parties to celebrate a couple's love and devotion. The fact that you were okay with your son blowing all of his portion on one day at a fancy hotel because celebrities' kids have parties there. But your daughter is being far more responsible and actually putting most of her portion towards a home, and you're refusing. Honestly, it just sounds like you like your son more than your daughter. Your overall tone when writing about her is dismissive. I guarantee she's picked up on it in real life, too. You're the a-hole. You set aside money for both your children. Let them use it the way they want to. Your son basically wastes money on a celebrity wedding, and your daughter wants to do a personal wedding experience, aka parties for when it is safe, for way less than that. The stipulations have been met. You're just mad because this isn't what you apparently envisioned. So many crappy parents on Am I the A-hole? I hope you are a troll, and you might be, because who is planning their weddings this big with a virus right now? I've been chatting to a man online that lives in a different state to me for the last 4 months. We have been talking every day online and on the phone for hours at a time, and we decided to meet today. He drove 8 hours to see me, and we arranged we would meet at a coffee shop at 2 p.m. He calls me and tells me he drove all night to see me, and he arrived at 7 a.m. I had things on in the morning, and wasn't able to leave to see him straight away. I did cancel some appointments and was in a hurry to try to see him earlier. I get an angry call from him at 11:45 a.m., asking how much longer I'll be, and where am I? I said I'm leaving in 30 to 45 minutes and I will see him soon. 15 minutes later, he calls again and starts shouting at me, saying I'm playing games with him and he is sick of waiting for me, and I'm playing games with him and he is driving home, and forget the coffee date. I managed to calm him down and left what I was doing, was getting my hair done, and yes, I left the salon with it half done and went to him immediately. When I got there, he was cold and angry, and he said, "You're not what I want. I don't want a woman that takes forever to come to me." I tried to explain to him that we arranged to meet at 2 p.m., and just because he decided to drive all night to see me and arrive early, that was great, but I couldn't drop everything to see him. He was so angry that he was rude to staff as well, and he was complaining that the coffee wasn't good and it was cold, etc. Everything was bothering him, and in the end, he just left me there and said he is leaving, he is going home. My heart is broken, as I spent 4 months getting to know this man, so many hours online and on the phone, and this is how it ended. He said he felt that if I was serious about him, I would have arrived within 2 hours of him arriving, instead of coming at the time we had both arranged. Am I in the wrong and I messed all this up? Should I have done something different and the outcome would be different? Respectfully, why would you want a good outcome with this guy, now that you know he's a clingy maniac? The best outcome has already happened, You got to see who he is, and now you don't have to engage with him anymore. Grieve the fantasy of the person you thought he was, and move on. I wouldn't have canceled my plans for him. He knew the plan was to meet at 2, and I would have reminded him of that. He was testing you, testing how submissive and easy to control you are, how easy it is to make you drop your work, friends, and family for him, to isolate you. I wouldn't be surprised if he messages you again after punishing you for a while with silent treatment, and gives you unrealistic rules and expectations that would serve him. Block him to make sure he doesn't do that. Red flag alert! I repeat, red flag alert! This guy, instead of sightseeing, relaxing, resting, doing something with himself, took it out on you. That is the first red flag. Another one is that he used his frustration on the poor staff, and on you, which makes it a third red flag. For some reason, this particular story about an entitled aunt's antics one Thanksgiving just rose to the surface of my mind, so I thought I'd share it. This happened quite a few years ago, so I don't remember exact conversations, but the event wasn't the kind of thing you'd forget. My grandmother moved into this large house when I was young, which she was going to share with one of my aunts, a rather entitled one, and her son. My aunt was going to take the upstairs, which was basically its own apartment, and my grandmother had the downstairs, with the hallway, foyer being their shared space. My aunt didn't have a full kitchen upstairs, only a fridge and a table, but she almost never cooked. Instead, she usually ate fast food. My grandmother's kitchen was at the back of the house, had 3 entrances, exits. One was through my grandmother's living room, one led to outside, and one was in the shared hallway. Oddly enough, that's important. Although my parents did all my grandmother's shopping, we soon noticed that there would be almost nothing in her refrigerator or in her cabinets when we would visit. We asked her about it, and she told us my aunt and her son were stealing all of her food. We actually didn't believe her at first. About a year prior, my grandmother had suffered a heart attack, which was why she didn't want to live completely alone. Just before the heart attack, she had become very paranoid and thought people were stealing from her. She would hide things like toilet paper and towels, but then forget she had hidden them and would think someone had stolen them from her. When she told us that her food was being stolen, we were more concerned she might be getting sick rather than that my aunt was actually taking anything. Thanksgiving rolled around, and my dad decided to have a huge dinner for all of us. He went out and bought a big turkey. I believe it was about 25 pounds. My mom cooked the turkey and an assortment of food, all in large quantities. There was dressing, some of which was stuffed inside the turkey, but there was also 2 pans of just dressing. There were rolls. There were also a lot of vegetables, but I don't really remember green beans and corn on the cob. Mom also went all out on the desserts. There were 3 apple pies, 2 pumpkin pies, banana pudding, and a sheet cake. There was so much food, it completely filled the small kitchen. There was food on top of the stove, in the stove, on the counters, and on the table. It smelled heavenly. And all of us got heaping plates of food and went to the living room to eat. We couldn't see into the kitchen from where we were sitting. It was a good meal, and we all ate and talked. My cousin finished eating first, and he left the room. When he went into the hallway, I assumed he had gone back upstairs. My aunt stayed with us, and we talked long after we had finished eating. Finally, she said something about wanting to go check on her son, and left the room to go upstairs. A few minutes after she had left, my dad handed me his plate and asked me to get him another piece of apple pie. I went into the kitchen and to the table where we had the desserts, but there's no apple pie. There's not even a pie pan. There's also no sheet cake or pudding. The only thing left is about 2 pieces of the pumpkin pie. I yell out to him there's no apple pie left. Mom says there should be a whole pie, but I repeat that there's nothing in there. She comes into the kitchen and both of us start to look around. All the food is gone. I mean, it's just gone. Even the pans have been taken. There's no turkey, dressing, or rolls, and the only vegetable left is a bite of green beans. Mom and I tell Dad this, and he walked into the kitchen to look for himself. My grandmother walked to the doorway, crossed her arms, and said something like, "I told you they were taking all my food." We realized then that my cousin had been sneaking into the kitchen from the hallway to take the food, while we were in the living room being distracted by his mother. Mom and Dad marched upstairs. I didn't go with them, but they told me later what happened. Dad knocked on the door, and when my aunt opened it, there was all the stolen food just laid out on their table. Dad demanded to know why they had taken the food, and my aunt just said that they had taken a little bit to eat later. Mom said my aunt seemed almost offended when my dad asked for the food back, but my aunt agreed to share a little. Dad came downstairs with some of the turkey. A lot had been cut off, 1 pan of dressing, and a few slices of apple pie. Remember, my aunt didn't buy or cook any of the food, but she kept the bulk of it. After that, my dad told my grandmother to keep the other 2 doors to the kitchen locked so my aunt and her son couldn't take all of her food. She did this, but my cousin broke in the back door. He was 12 at the time. My aunt didn't seem to think it was a big deal, and basically acted like it was my grandmother's fault for locking the door. Shortly after that, my grandmother moved out. Please tell me the next sentence is she sold the house. Unless, of course, your next post is how my aunt and cousin drove my grandmother out of her house and stole her home. My aunt and cousin moved into an apartment. Oh, there's a special place in hell for them. Plus, what are they doing now that grandma is gone? I mean, they'd have to cook, clean, and do things on their own. And if I'm your grandma, someone's paying for a new door frame, locks, and getting it put in. After all that, someone's going over grandma's knee for a whooping. Yes, EK and EA are getting a lesson on breaking things and stealing. Something similar happened to my grandparents. They invited some family on my grandmother's side to their dinner, only to have them take some leftovers home. They nearly took it all. They weren't invited again after that. They took advantage of my grandparents more than once, though. Grrr.